Hey, this is Teddy,
This is Maya,
and welcome to Every Day I Do.
because I do is more than one day.
So, this is part two of the topic of fasting. So, last time we talked about what fasting is, basically abstaining, and people in the Bible who fasted and how to apply it in our marriage and why. And today we're going to talk about how to fast and to give some experiences of of when we have fasted.
Mm-hmm. So fasting is one of those things that you're like, well, what do I fast? How do I fast? How long do I fast? There's so many questions around fasting because the Bible doesn't give like a specific, do this. It just gives a bunch of instances and it talks about different kinds of fasting. And that's basically it, is there's different reasons to fast. There's different ways to fast. And so a fast doesn't have to be 40 days like Moses and Jesus. It doesn't even have to be 3 days like Esther. A fast can literally be
one
meal. But what makes it different than just skipping a meal is what you do in that time.
Yes.
And so that we're going to talk a little bit about that. But you can also fast other things. I don't know. How do you feel about that? Like, I'm going to fast social media. What is that?
I mean, because social media is a draw, and it's gonna bring a hunger.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you're fasting from social media, you're gonna be like, oh, I need to get on social media, and it's a hunger.
Yes.
And so I think it's not in the Bible.
Yeah.
Does it say to fast social media?
Yeah. No more Facebook or no more Instagram or whatever.
It's like whatever it draws away your attention away from Christ. You can fast from that.
Mm-hmm. And whatever your flesh is desiring. So it's really about making the flesh be quiet and helping your hunger for God to grow.
Absolutely.
So it can be anything. It can be TV.
Yep.
It can be even spending. All those things that give you like a little hit of dopamine.
Yep.
Those are the things that are making your flesh crave more.
Yep. And what about complaining?
Mm-hmm.
Some people, that is their bread and butter, is to complain.
That's a really hard one because I can delete social media from my phone. Yeah. I can't delete my mouth. That's hard.
Which is why you're fasting.
Literally. It's so funny when you're fasting from food, though, and you're so used to
just popping something in your mouth.
Popping some in your mouth, taking a drink of some, or walking into the pantry for no reason at all. You're not even hungry. It's just a habit, or you're bored. Yeah. We always ask our kids, are you bored or hungry? Most of the time we're just bored.
Yeah.
So these are all ways that you can fast. Another one that we were having a discussion about is sex.
Yeah.
The Bible says in 1 Corinthians 7:5, do not deprive one another except with consent for a time, that you may give yourselves to fasting and prayer and come together again so that Satan does not tempt you because of your lack of self-control.
So you might be saying, wait a minute, what?
Fasting sex?
Fasting sex?
But we're married. We can have sex whenever we want.
Because sex is a good thing. It was instituted by God. But the passage illustrates a broader biblical principle that fasting is voluntarily giving up something good for a season so that you can pursue something greater, which is deeper communication with God. And food is the most common object of fasting in Scripture. But Paul shows that even marital intimacy, which is a good gift from God, may be set aside briefly by mutual agreement for focused prayer. And that demonstrates that fasting is ultimately about reordering our priorities and not merely abstaining from food. So to clarify, God is not anti-pleasure. He created food, he created marriage, and he created sexual intimacy as good gifts. And biblical fasting is not about rejecting those gifts. It's temporarily laying them down to declare that the giver is more important than the gifts. And the important part here is that both husband and wife must be in agreement about fasting sex.
And that it's just a certain amount of time. It's not like you're going to be like, okay, for 3 years, we're not going to have sex.
Yeah.
Like it's just for a time. And if you're doing that, if you're saying we're not going to have sex, it literally says for the purpose of prayer and fasting.
Yes.
So it's not just like you can use that as a way to not have sex with your spouse.
Absolutely. It says, and come together again so that Satan doesn't tempt you because of your lack of self-control. And so somebody in that marriage, if you're abstaining sex for that long time, one of you is going to lose the battle of having self-control.
That's why marriage and sex go together, because they help, like we're helping each other have self-control in that area. It's a good outlet.
Yep.
God gave us that as a gift, and
Yes.
it's a good outlet for us.
It's
So
a great outlet.
it is. But we didn't want to not talk about that because the Bible talks about it. And so a lot of times people skip over these scriptures because they don't understand them or they're uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And we want to make sure this is a marriage podcast. We talk about sex. We talk about those things that might feel uncomfortable because we want to give some clarification.
Absolutely. So what happens during a fast?
Well, your flesh gets very angry because fasting suppresses your flesh.
Yeah.
And whatever it is you're giving up, your body is going to start craving it.
That's right.
And you know what's so funny? When we fast, I crave salt so bad. I just want, like, I don't even want, like, I could just have salt. But it's funny because your body is like missing things.
Yeah. When we fast, sometimes I'm like, oh man, when our fast is over, I'm going to have a burger.
Yeah.
Or, you know, but that's the fun. And when I catch myself, and I'm like, that's exactly what I need, is to think about what that is. So then I can, you know, being mindful about Christ, about my relationship and why we're fasting.
Yeah. So you're like craving something. Your flesh is craving something, but it reminds you in that moment that I should be craving the things of God. I should be craving relationship with Him. It's a good, our flesh is a constant reminder.
Yeah. So fasting awakens our spiritual man. And when we have those hunger pains, it reminds us how much you need Jesus. I need Jesus more.
Every craving literally can become a prayer in this time. And instead of stopping to feed your flesh in that moment, whether it's food or, you know, your phone or social media, you can stop and feed your spirit man. Yeah. And it just strengthens you.
Absolutely. And it also helps us it reminds us that food isn't everything. I mean, man does not live by bread alone, according to Deuteronomy 8:3. And Jesus even quoted this when he was tempted.
And he was fasting and tempted. Yep.
So just remember that fasting, it's not going to change God, because God never changes.
God
He's
is
the same yesterday, today, and forever.
Yes.
But fasting, it does change us.
And it does change us. Like I remember the first time Teddy and I did a long fast. It was a liquid fast. And the first one we did was 21 days, I think. And that's the longest we've ever fasted. And that it was hard. I ain't gonna lie, it was hard.
Yeah.
But it literally changed us forever.
Yeah. And we've done it again a couple times, I believe.
We did another one. We didn't quite make it 21 days. We did 18 days. And then we both, like, every day we obviously prayed together. And I think at the end of that 18th day, we just felt like the fast was over. We just were like, I think we're done.
Yeah.
And I think those are the two long ones we did. I don't think we've done, but we've done other fasts.
Yeah. Daniel fast.
Yeah.
3-day fast, 1-day fast. But when we do those long fasts, it's funny that after the third day, it doesn't really feel that much, that I don't feel that much hunger. But something else.
For me, it was more mental.
Exactly.
It was like more the habit versus like my physical body didn't really want it, but my mind was like, I want to eat something. Or I struggle way more than Teddy does when we fast. I don't know. But fasting positions our hearts to hear Him. And that's very true. Fasting, it just puts you in a place where you're more, it's almost like your spiritual ears are open.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's a good way to put it. And so it's like, if you think about an old time radio, when you would have to like turn the knob to get to the perfect, to get to the radio station.
Or 0.5.
But you'd have static in between the two. And so just think of it like you're tuning into what God is saying. And just and God is removing that static.
I love that analogy. That's really good. And that's what it feels like. It feels like you're like tuned in to what He's saying and tuned in. Oh, it like gets me excited about fasting.
We just doing so. So we talk about Isaiah 58. It's an incredible chapter. It's an entire chapter about fasting. And I encourage you to read it sometime. We're not going to read that here because it's pretty lengthy, but I'm just going to give you, in essence, that God says, I don't want empty fasting. He doesn't want people fasting just because
Like
You wanna
every
fast.
Tuesday I fast.
Yeah.
Or, and you could do that, but
Absolutely.
he's just saying he doesn't want it to just be like something you put on your schedule
Yeah.
and mark off.
Yeah.
Like, what's the point of that?
Exactly.
You're just not eating at that point.
So in this story, Israel was fasting, but while they were fasting, they were still mistreating people. They weren't really seeking God in the way that they should have. They were just fasting.
Mm-hmm.
And so God says that true fasting changes how you live.
Mm-hmm. I think about fasting and when we fasted, and it's almost like there's like a, when you drop a pin on your maps and you can see like different places you've been. I feel like that the fasting that we've done in our life is like dropped pins because it's always changed something significantly in our lives. Yeah. And so we can like look, and it's funny the things that fasting does do and what it doesn't do. And obviously it does change us, but it shouldn't be about impressing people. That's kind of what Jesus was saying about the Pharisees, that they would fast and they would put sackcloth and ashes and they would make their face look sad and somber. And it was like this big show. They were showing people, oh, I'm so holy, I fast. And that fasting should not be about impressing people. But one of the things that it's not like you can't say that you're fasting, because you can say like, oh, I'm fasting. I've had friends fasting and we're at a meeting and they're like, oh, I'm fasting. I'm not. Just because you say you're fasting doesn't take away from the fast in that moment. That's right. Unless you're like, oh, making it a show like the Pharisees. So I just wanted to, exactly. And fasting is also not about, it's not a diet. It's not a weight loss thing. Like you should be like, okay, I'm going to fast and then I'm going to weigh myself, because obviously you're not going to lose that much weight. It's all water weight. As soon as you eat, you're going to gain it back. So it's not a diet. Yeah. And so we're not talking about like fasting for health. Yes. We're not talking about intermittent fasting, anything like that. We're talking about biblical fasting. Yes. This is also not a way to manipulate God. Like I'm going to fast so that God will do this. Well, that's not what fasting is about. Yeah. Why do we fast? So we should fast, first of all, to seek him, to seek his will, to find out what he wants in our lives instead of what we want for our lives. And that's one of the things that we've done when we fasted. Yeah, absolutely. Another thing is that we can fast to repent. We talked about David a little bit ago, or on the last episode, about how he fasted because he was repenting of his own sin with his own failures. And then you can also fast to worship. Yeah. It's just spend some time with God and, deny your flesh and let God, speak to you through that time of worship. You can fast to intercede. We talked about Esther on the last episode, that they were fasting to intercede for God's intervention on their people. You can also fast to prepare yourself for something. Yeah. I mean, we did that when God was preparing us to move into a different part of ministry. And we had to seek God for that. It's really, that instance was recently, and I think we were just like kind of unsure about what was next for us. Yeah. And so we decided to do a 1-day fast together, and it was a Monday. Yeah. And we fasted that whole day. And we're just asking God, Lord, what is next in ministry? We really have some desires. Yeah. We wanted to start a marriage ministry. We wanted to, there was something else. About working at the church kind of thing. Yeah, just like what God had next steps for us. Yeah. And then the next day, like after that fast, we got a call from our pastor, and it was like all of those things. So. Yeah. He said, pray about it and get back with me. And I got off the phone and I looked at my wife and said, we already prayed about this. We fasted yesterday about this. And so I called him right back and I said, yes, God is definitely guiding us to this. Yeah. Like this call is an answer to prayer. Yeah. And there's also a verse, Psalm 35:13 says, this is David. And he says, yet when they were ill, I put on sackcloth. I humbled myself with fasting, but my prayers returned unanswered. And here David's just talking about how he was asking for certain things. God didn't do exactly what he was asking, but he still humbled himself in fasting. And I think it's not a magic pill. No. Like that's not always going to happen. Like what happened with us where we fasted and got an immediate answer, because sometimes we fasted and the answer's been no. Yeah. You don't get to do that. Yeah.
And so we want to actually we want to talk about some of the things that we have fasted for and how we've seen God move through those. I mean, we've fasted for breakthrough for other couples, that God would do something in their lives. Again, we're not manipulating God, but we're asking God. It's like a prayer, but it's like everything that we have as we're interceding for them.
Yeah. We've had a lot of big instances with couples that we've worked with. So a lot of infertility that we've prayed with them, and obviously other marriage things that they're struggling with. And we've just fasted, brought it before God. Yeah. And even though it wasn't even necessarily our thing that we were praying for, that was our way to seek God's guidance.
Absolutely.
By fasting.
We also fasted on guidance on big decisions. So many years ago, we didn't even have kids yet, that we wanted to move to Texas. And, God clearly told us no.
Yeah, we tried to move to Texas.
And we tried. And so a few years ago, we actually did a 1-day fast.
No, it was 3 days.
It was a 3-day fast because
it was in April of 2023. And the reason we had chose that was because our daughter was about to graduate from high school. And we were like, this would be the perfect time to move if we want to, because our little kids were still little. And so I remember we wrote a list and we asked God, we were like, we want to move to Texas, and this would be a great season to do that.
Yeah.
And then we heard nothing for many, many months.
Yeah.
And we were like, well, I don't know.
Yeah. And we didn't really say much about it even after our fast. We
just kind of let it there.
We knew that God was going to do what he was going to do. And come a few months later,
in October, then Teddy had a work meeting actually in Texas. And at that meeting, they said, if you want to keep your job, you need to move
to Texas.
Yeah. It was like, and it was 6 months later after our fast and after our prayer.
Yeah.
And, it's kind of funny because I was like, heck yeah. And Teddy was like, I don't know. So we took a few months to really make sure, see God. But it's just, I was like, this is it.
This is it. And God made it happen. The company that I worked for moved us. They paid for all the expenses, moving our whole
house,
our vehicles, everything, and paid for an apartment for us to live in until we found a house. And God definitely moved. And
that's why I just see those little dots of markers, because even with marriage ministry, when we did that first long fast, I feel like I think that was in 2020, and 2020 was just wild. But I remember it because we hadn't been to church in a long time, because we lived in Washington, everything was closed, and we ended our fast the first day that we went back to church. And it was, remember? And we did communion, and it was just like, it was like the start of a whole new season. We didn't quite know it then, but now looking back, I can see God really opened up a lot of things, because, we started a home church, and then we moved, and now we started, a marriage ministry and all of that. And this podcast.
Podcast.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So we just want to encourage you to choose maybe one day this week. Maybe just skip one meal, and then spend that time that you would be spending over that meal to pray together.
That's one of the things I wanted to say, was when we have fasted together, I just wanted to say what we did, because we obviously weren't eating, but what did we do the rest of the time?
Yeah.
It was pretty quiet. It's interesting how much our lives revolve around food. You think about food, you shop for food, you make food, you clean up for food. When you're not eating, your kitchen stays clean. It's like you get so much time back. It's the wildest thing. But so one of the things, when we did the long fast, we did that book together. So every day we would read that book, and then we would spend time worshiping. We'd put on worship music, we'd pray together. On the shorter fast, we've done similar things where we set some time aside and we pray together. We make lists of things that we're praying about. We ask God to change us.
Yeah, absolutely. Another thing though is, if you have children, you can't make them fast.
That's hard. It's hard. You still have to make them food.
You still have to make them food. And you're used to, when you're cooking, you lick the spoon or something like that.
Pop in a chicken nugget.
Exactly. But if that happens,
Yeah.
Don't condemn
It's
yourself.
okay. Yeah.
It's okay. God's not going to be
all over.
Yeah, God's not angry because of that.
So we just want to encourage you. If you have never fasted, take this as an opportunity to learn about fasting and to maybe try it.
Yeah.
And especially if there's something that you're seeking God for, if there's something you need direction on, if there's some kind of disconnect in your marriage, this is a great way to start fasting.
Yeah. And so when you're fasting, ask God 3 questions. What are you trying to teach us? What in our marriage needs to become less? And how can Christ become more?
I love the verse in James 4:8 that says, draw near to God and he'll draw near to you. And that's really what fasting does, is you're laying aside all of these things to pursue him.
Yes.
And he's right there. He wants to be pursued.
Yeah.
And so fasting doesn't prove your devotion to God.
That's right.
Because if it did, we'd have to fast all the time in order to prove it. So it's not that. It's just making room to experience his presence in a different way.
Absolutely. So a healthy marriage isn't built by 2 people who simply love each other. It's built by 2 people who hunger for God more than they hunger for anything else in their lives.
And fasting will help you do this.
Absolutely.
Especially fasting together. There's something about fasting together that makes me not want to fast alone.
Exactly.
Like I would much rather fast with you because it makes us closer. And I don't know, it's like it gives us the same vision.
Absolutely. And that's important for every marriage. So that's all we have for this topic. We thank you all for joining.
Thanks for joining us again.